does this tell us? The court can be right or it can be wrong, and that usually depends upon the composition, which particular people happen to be on at a particular time. But can the Constitution be right or wrong? Does the Constitution change its meaning? The Constitution is what it is. But the court can be right or wrong. Unfortunately, for a litigant, someone in a judicial case, the Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court in this country. So if you go all the way to the Supreme Court and they make a mistake on your case, well, that's too bad for you. You just don't have any recourse. That's the end of it. That's one of the flaws in the system. There's no way out. You lost. You should have won. They made a mistake. You lost. Unfortunate. Okay? But that doesn't mean the Constitution changes because they made a mistake in your case. Our difficulty is that we've bought into this idea, or some people have bought into this idea, that if the Supreme Court makes a mistake in a case, somehow everybody else is bound by that mistake. Well, I'm not bound by the mistake if I'm not a member of one of the plaintiffs or the defendants, if I'm not one of the litigants in that case. Congress is certainly not bound by it. The president's not bound by it. The states are not bound by it. But there's our difficulty.
But precedent, it's all about precedent. And
well, precedent doesn't mean anything.
Why not?
Well, because all precedent says is, here we have a case, and we look at earlier cases, and if the earlier cases are the same or similar, we follow the same reasoning. Why do we follow the same reasoning? Well, because we want to have uniformity in the law. We don't want the law bouncing back and forth and changing from case to case. But does that mean that if, in this particular case, we look back at the earlier case, we see the earlier case was wrong, that we follow it even though it was wrong? No, that's why they overrule earlier cases. They're not bound by the precedent. Precedent is not like a statute that binds them. So even the Supreme Court feels that it isn't bound by these things, so why is the whole country bound by them? It's an absurdity. Now, the reason that the politicians in Congress go along with this is because the court works hand in glove with them. The court has been for years, decades, expanding the power of Congress through judicial opinions. And then congressmen can come back to their constituents and say, oh, well, we're doing this because the court told us to do it, you see. We're not trying to take power away from you people, but the court told us. All right? So it's a nice game that they play. It's Brer Rabbit, right? The opposite, Brer Rabbit, don't throw me in the briar patch type situation. They're using the court as a shill for the expansion of governmental power. And it's fascinating to watch this. How many times has the Supreme Court declared a statute of Congress unconstitutional in comparison to how many times it's declared a statute of the states unconstitutional? And the answer is huge disproportion in terms of how many statutes of the states have been declared unconstitutional. Why? Because they're trying to transfer power from the state level to the national level, centralized power. The Supreme Court has been a power centralizing device. In a sense, it's exactly what you'd expect. And it's what the Patrick Henry group, the so-called anti-federalists, Thomas Jefferson group, were more worried about than anything else in the governmental structure. That's what would happen, that the court judicial system would be used as a power centralizing device.
Do you have any experience with the UCC? Yes.
Many years ago, everybody goes to law school, reads the UCC, or if you take a bar exam, you usually read the UCC of your particular state.
It's very, very involved.
Yeah, well, it's a code that deals with commercial transactions. It was originally written because of the problem that you had different contractual law in different, and property law in different states, and they wanted to create a uniform body of commercial law across the country.
How does it help us, or does it?
Well, I think it helps people that are engaged in that area of commerce, because most of the states have adopted. See, the Uniform Commercial Code. The original idea was there was this body of experts who drafted it, and then they hoped that every state would adopt it in the same form, and therefore you would have a national uniformity. But they didn't. So, yes, the UCC looks similar in different states, but some states have added their own or subtracted something or what have you, so there's some differences. But the basic idea is they have created tried to create a pretty much national code of commercial transactions of a certain type. mean, you have to fall into a certain category of commerce before you're subject to the UCC.
What would that be?
Well, what they call merchants. I mean, they're defined. All right? I'm not a merchant. I mean, lawyers are not merchants. Or if I were an itinerant bookseller, which I am, right? I'm not one of their merchants. I'm not engaged in that kind of transaction, so I don't come under the UCC.
You mean buying and selling of things, or manufacturing, or what do they determine as a merchant?
Well, you have to look at the specific, traders, people who are dealing in, say, commodity trading. Look at the code.
So that's basically a body of law, is it not?
Yeah, well, it's a body of law that was originally drafted by a committee of experts, and then it was taken to each one of the state legislatures. And usually they made a little change here or there for their own local purposes.
Interesting.
You know, there's the Uniform Commercial Code, there's Uniform Law of Partnerships and Trusts. There are a series of these uniform laws that were created exactly for the purpose of generating a national standard in particular areas of law, so that we wouldn't have 50 different legal systems for contracts, for partnerships, for whatever.
Would the Gold Clause contract fall into good keeping or harmonization with UCC?
Yeah, there's no reason that they couldn't. There's no reason that someone that was operating on a UCC couldn't make a Gold Clause payment provision in a contract.
Got it. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you.
I don't think there's any problem there.
What do you hope to see in the next year in the United States?
Hope or fear?
I think that's happening already.
What I fear is a real downturn in the economy. I fear the possibility that the federal bond market is going to be in serious trouble. So we're looking at the possibility of the beginning of hyperinflation. I mean, all sorts of grave difficulties. What I hope to see is in one or more legislatures, probably not any kind of militia bill passed, because I don't think we have enough people organized anywhere to get that done. But one of these alternative currency bills put in and at least gotten to the floor of the House or the Senate for a full floor debate. Because those are the steps, right? You introduce the bill, it goes to committee. We've done that in a couple of states. It's gone to committee. There have actually been some hearings, and then the committees have voted no. So it never got to the floor of the House or the Senate. So the next stage is to get it out of the committee, same type of bill, get it out of the committee, get it onto the floor of the House or the Senate, where it receives full debate and publicity for the general public. The general public, even in the states where the legislature is closer to the people, the general public usually doesn't pay attention to what's going on in state government committee meetings, right?
Right.
But sometimes they do pay attention to what's going on the floor of the House, on the floor of the Senate, especially if perhaps you could get the governor in favor of one of these bills. Now it becomes a matter of real public concern.
Give the website again for the Gold Clause. Gold Clause?
goldmoneybill.org. And you can see there, I think that was the last version of the bill that was drafted for New Hampshire. If you go to Montana, I'm not sure what...
I'm on your site right now looking.
Okay, goldmoneybill.org.
Right.
Find it?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Montana has a similar bill. I think it was House Bill 63 in the last session. But if you look up Montana Gold Money Bill, you'll a number of places on the web that there's information on that.
Wonderful.
And that, as I say, was a bill that was focused on gold. It was we were using electronic gold, so it would have fit in with the gold money type operation.
Right.
Goldmoney.com. Although it wasn't directly tied to goldmoney.com, we were using that type of a system. So it was at the cutting edge of technology. Right now, if I were to redraft that bill, we could now do it in both gold and silver, because I know that Gold Money also has silver as well as gold accounts.
Right, and platinum.
Oh, platinum, okay. Well, platinum, too. I don't know if platinum would be too useful.